Advices Radio Network.
Franco is pretty smart, but Franco is a child. And when it comes to the day of the contest, I'm his father. He comes to me for advices. So it's not that hard for me to give him the wrong advices.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to Advices Radio. You're listening to episode number 97. I'm Scott McNally, and this show is brought to you by TrueNutrition.com. You can use our code ADVICES at checkout for additional savings and to let them know that you support the show. I just got the numbers back for our first month with True Nutrition, and things are looking good. So thank you guys. I really do appreciate you guys supporting the show and being able to buy from a good company that I believe in. All right, guys, today we have with us Ron Partlow, IFBB Pro. This is a dude who has been around bodybuilding for a long time. Let's put it this way. He was training for 25 years before he turned pro. He had been competing for 18 years before he turned pro. This is a guy who fucking loves the sport. I'll take any excuse or reason to get Ron back on the program. And we just got back from the Arnold Classic, so what a better reason than to talk some bodybuilding. And after that, I wanted to bring up the topic of training partners. I thought that because Ron is so passionate about the sport and about the actual lifting of weights, he would be a great person to bring on to explore this topic. So we didn't know where it was going to go. And the program takes an interesting spin. You'll just have to listen to it for yourself. But we do talk about training partners. We talk about Ron's thoughts about him, his experiences in the past, and what he does now. A lot of stuff that I think that everybody listening will be able to relate to. And then it turns into this like really positive message by the end, which I'm not at all surprised by, but I'll call this conversation an experiment. We sat down not knowing exactly where it was going to go, and it turned out pretty cool. So I can't wait to share this with you guys, and stay tuned because we have a lot more planned. I've got another interview with Luke Sando that'll be coming out later in the week. We're going to talk about his reflections on Arnold, Ohio, and we're going to talk about his plans for Arnold, Australia. Of course, we have all our other normal shows. There'll be a new episode of Drugs and Stuff with Dave Crossland, Muscle Minds with Dr. Scott Stevenson. I believe Haley and Ryan are putting together another episode of The Come Up, and the guys from Clinical Muscle will be putting out a show soon. Guys, I couldn't be happier with this. We have so many great podcasts coming out. I'm feeling blessed to have so many cool people around me. Let's get to Mutant headquarters up in Canada and go to Big Ron Partlow right after this break. Hey guys, why are you using sports nutrition that was designed for someone else? At TrueNutrition.com, they offer the world's largest selection of quality protein powders, and they let you design your own custom blend from a variety of powders, flavors, boosts, and packaging options, like the Team Skip blend, for instance. That's over 20 billion possible combinations to create a protein powder tailored to your diet, your goals, your tastes, and your budget. TrueNutrition.com also offers the ability to create delicious custom oatmeal blends, and they're third-party tested, proving that all their supplements are ensured to have the highest level of quality and value. Don't be a sucker and pay for fancy packaging and gimmicks. Discover the source that bodybuilders trust and stop using mass-produced nutrition that wasn't designed for you. TrueNutrition.com, and use our code ADVICES at checkout to let them know that you support the shows. All right, guys, up next, we've got Big Ron Partlow back with us. Ron, thank you for joining me today, man. How you doing?
I'm maximum lively today, Scott.
Yeah?
We're coming off that Arnold high, you know.
Yes. Yes. And we've got you in your place of business today. You're at work.
I'm at the office. I'm in one of the boardrooms that I used to use for All Bull back in the day.
Bring back
Matt
memories.
Meinrod.
Yeah.
You know, I got to tell you before we start, my number one biggest disappointment of the weekend
Yeah, what's that?
is that I didn't get to see Matt.
I saw him for a split second.
Yeah, so I walked past the Redcon booth twice, and he wasn't there either time. But I was told he was there the whole time. So I'm not quite sure.
Maybe it was like bathroom break or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him and Aaron were test driving Lamborghinis or something.
Maybe that's what it was. They had these bowls, like a burrito bowl, they called it, up front. And it was $10, which I would expect to pay, but it was worth it. Maybe he was getting one of those, because that's what I would have done if I had to sit at a booth all day, is just eat those things all day long.
You know what I would do for food?
What's that?
I would go there was a place, we stayed at the Renaissance, and there's a sushi teriyaki place like a block away.
Ooh, yeah.
Called Rishi Sushi. And I don't know if I said that right. And I tried to do an accent, but it was terrible. And I would just get a bunch of teriyaki bowls for the next day. So I'd go there every night and eat, and just get food for the booth.
I never went to a sushi place because I'm the only, I think, bodybuilder that doesn't eat sushi. But I went to one a few months ago, and I got a teriyaki thing. Teriyaki.
That's what I do.
Okay, that was so good. That was amazing.
Yeah, I don't like sushi either. You got to cook my shit.
Okay, you're the other bodybuilder that doesn't like sushi.
Yeah, we can go for steaks. Everyone else can go eat little piles of raw fish.
Yeah, right. So
and pretend it's their cheat meal.
So Arnold Classic, how was your trip overall?
It was good, man. It's one of those trips that does get a bit old because you're not flying into like a tropical. It's not like they have it in Miami,
right?
Or you're not flying to Barcelona. Yeah, it's what it means for us is that we fly into Toronto in February or March, which is just shitty. No one wants to go to Toronto in February.
Yeah. And
you're in Toronto, and hopefully you make your flight out of Toronto to Columbus, and it's on a really shitty little tiny hopper plane.
Okay.
One of those little 2 seats on each side of the aisle, really, really tight cabin. It's on one of those. Those are the only flights from Toronto to Columbus, because you're just flying over the lake, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a very uncomfortable flight. And to top it off, February, March is always when the magical weather in the East is happening. So of the 8 trips to the Arnold that I've done, I have missed 4 connections out of Toronto.
You're kidding me.
No. So 4 times I would fly to Toronto. The weather would be so shitty that the plane would be canceled coming in or canceled going out. Then they put us in a hotel, and then we get up like 5 hours later, rush back to the airport at 6 a.m. and fly to Columbus, and then rush to the expo for Friday.
Yeah.
That's half the time. So I was happy that this time it was, flawless for me. I was in properly and out properly.
I've never missed a connection before, but it's my biggest fear. Scale of 1 to 10, how terrible is it?
Well, I mean, it just depends on what that means. You can miss your connection, and there's a flight an hour later that they get you on.
I guess that's not bad.
You can miss your connection, and then you're at the Ramada for 6 hours. You got to turn around and come back. Really, that's that shitty.
Yeah, that's bad.
But the Toronto airport is sort of undergoing like perpetual construction. So there's a couple times where it was just walking from the gate we landed at to the gate we were leaving that caused us to miss our connection because of all the construction and the detours, and you're going the long way through this huge airport. And I got to the gate one time and the plane was still on the tarmac.
Oh, okay.
And they're like, no, we've taken you off the flight because your bags won't make it.
Oh.
And they already put somebody else on the plane, and I watched the plane pull away.
Oh, that's painful.
Oh, fuck.
That's painful.
Yeah, so that happened once,
Yeah, that's a bad story.
Well, let's get to the good one.
Yeah, let's get to the good. Let's talk about the Arnold Classic, man. So we had Brandon Curry won this year. It's what I wanted to see even before the show. Going into it, he was my personal favorite. Did you have a personal favorite?
Well, I didn't have anything invested in anybody. I was sort of verbally rooting for Josh. just because I like Josh. He's a great guy, and he's got that kind of overwhelming size, with, him being like a bigger dude, which I kind of related to, I mean,
Absolutely.
That's kind of along my lines, right? And I remember talking with a lot of people about how Luke was looking on Instagram because his glutes were really in. And I know, condition with Luke's always been his challenge, right? Like, he's just so overwhelmingly good and has all that cartoon shit going on. But I mean, until he, really nailed condition, it wasn't going to happen for him. But his glutes in Instagram, his glutes look like they're really lean. And I was like, oh, fuck. I mean, this looks pretty good. But, you still, you got to prove yourself,
Yeah.
And so I guess I was kind of saying I was rooting for Josh, and then I thought Brandon and Bonac would be the other two in the top three. So that was kind of what I was saying. But then what happened, and fuck. I think the story of the show wasn't even Brandon Curry winning. I thought it was Luke getting third.
Yeah, that was amazing, man. That was so cool to see. He has changed so much. I mean, that he brought that conditioning. Like 2 years ago when we saw him at the Arnold, I remember thinking, like, size-wise, he matches up with everybody. This is his first contest here in the IFBB, and he, a lot of times you see that happen, and I've said this on a previous podcast, so bear with me, guys that are listening to me say it again. But you see a new guy get up there, and you're like, well, he looks really good for having just turned pro, but he's going to have to put on a lot of size. There was no question that Luke already had that, right?
Yeah. I remember meeting Luke when he was an amateur in Body Power.
Oh,
he
yeah?
came over to the booth. Yeah, he was sponsored by a smaller company, and he had a booth right next to us, so I was kind of chatting with him a bit. And I remember just thinking, like, this guy's not a pro yet? Oh,
yeah.
Weird. Because, he just looked like a pro, And he looked like a Flex Lewis type of pro, like cartoonish,
Yeah.
And he didn't even have a pro card. And then, some people said, oh, he hasn't quite been on the money yet. And I was like, oh, well, he still looked like he was like the type of guy that could win a pro card without even being ripped,
Absolutely.
And, but then right away, I think it was the very next year he won it. And so, it's kind of no surprise. But, it's guys like Luke are reminders to, I think they're good I guess people need to be smart enough to understand what they're looking at. That's the problem. But a lot of these young people that I hear saying, like, oh, yeah, I'll get my pro card and I'm going to do this. And I just feel like pointing them towards guys like Luke and being like, you point them at someone like Luke and say, okay, now that guy, that's what you're up against. Like, you're fucking just forget it, dude. That's what I feel like saying to some of these young guys. Yes, a lot of hard work and 20 years of grinding and stuff can result in you getting where you want to go. But there's people that are just that good. Like, he's like ridiculous. Like, these other guys are awesome. And I know he got third, which means there's two guys better than him.
Right.
But, that's the look I've always loved. He's kind of got that second coming of Dorian thing going on,
You're not the first person I've heard say that either.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to throw that name around.
No, of course not.
Oh, the next Jordan. It's like, oh, really? The next Jordan?
Right.
But yeah, like he's actually got like better arms than Dorian had. Let's say, of course, Dorian had maybe a better back, but I mean, fuck, like he's very similar in a lot of ways. He's got the same kind of muscle quality. Some of his poses look like his side chest kind of looks like Dorian's.
Yeah.
He's got some poses that remind me a lot of that look. I guess it's kind of a proportional thing too. And the accent doesn't hurt. But there you go.
Right.
That's my take.
What do you think now? I'm going to go to the opposite end of the spectrum. What did you think about Brandeo?
His front lat spread looks like a, like the next level, but Lee Labrada shape.
Yeah, I could see that.
So if you look at Lee Labrada's front lat spread and then look at Raphael's front lat spread, the shape of everything's kind of the same. He's just like, new age bigger.
Yeah, that's what VJ actually said. He was like, he looks like, he looks exactly the same, only better.
Yeah, that's funny. I didn't know that. I didn't know if anyone else would make that connection, but for some reason he just jumped out at me in a few poses. He's fantastic. His front double's crazy. The arms are like bigger than his head, and then the waist is like the size of his arms. It's kind of a funny look.
Yeah.
But Aceto sent me a front double And you know when someone kind of holds the camera too high, it makes a person's legs look super short.
Yeah, yeah.
So Aceto sent me a front double from like the hotel, and just the angle of it, his arms looked way bigger than his waist.
Okay.
Like it's just
like even more dramatic than normal proportion.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, it was the funniest picture. So, but yeah, he's a fantastic bodybuilder. I mean, that guy has that. I guess, what words do you use? What cliches usually come out of people's mouths when they see a physique like that? You know,
I don't know, but
stuff like clean lines. You know?
yeah. And comparing him to Luke would be like comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah,
that's another good cliche to throw out there.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
But no, fantastic bodybuilder. I mean, you know, you could justifiably move that guy up in a lot of cases ahead of guys that weren't as conditioned.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you know, and I mean, he was harder than Victor. He was harder than Josh.
Sure.
You know, was he harder than Rolly? I mean, well, now you're starting to just kind of fight enormous amounts of muscle mass at that point.
yeah, absolutely.
So, what did you think of Akeem?
I thought he looked okay, but I mean, he didn't. You know what? Here's the thing. I wanted to like him, but it didn't.
Right.
He didn't jump out at me. I feel like his conditioning was better than it had been in the past. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. So the thing with Akeem is, you know how most guys have to diet until their glutes come in?
Yeah.
I think Akeem just needs to diet like 5-6 pounds more because his back is never quite there for tightness.
Yeah, that's always been the thing. Even when he's looked his best, I've seen.
And you can't tell me that he doesn't have muscle density in his back. Of course he does. He just needs to get his skin a little fitter, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's ridiculous from the front and the side. His glutes have striations all over them, so you know his body fat's right there.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's not like it has to come down much, and we're just talking a few pounds. So, I mean, the next show I talked to Akeem, and he said he's not going to go to Australia because everyone else is going.
Huh.
So he's just going to focus on the Indy.
Oh, nice.
So I don't know. I mean, he could win that show. He's just so ridiculous, man.
Especially that's another month now till the Indy.
Is it a month?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, you know, it's just he's got so much muscle, man. It's ridiculous. He's one of my favorite physiques in the pros right now, just because he's so like kind of obnoxiously huge.
He's so dense. Yeah, his density is crazy
too. But yeah, you know, he just needs to get a little harder and then just be a little harder at the shows. You know, I mean, he knows what it takes to win. He can do it again. I was in Tampa when he won that year, and he was really ripped at that show. Like, it was the best he ever looked, I think.
Yeah. Now, tell me what do you think about this? Now, watching the show in person, I didn't look at any of the pictures until I got home. I feel like, because when I saw everybody on stage, I felt like Braden Curry looked harder than Bonek did. But now I'm looking at some pictures, and I feel like that in some cases, Bonek looks harder than Curry did in the pictures.
Yeah, absolutely. So I talked to a lot of people that actually had Bonek winning.
I had heard the same thing. Some of the guys from Muscular Development were saying that, and I'd heard it from other places. And
I saw Neil the next morning at breakfast, and you know, I didn't want to go over and bug him. Like, Neil's a great guy. I talk to him all the time whenever I see him. But you know, I'm walking in to eat, and I look over, and Neil gives me the wave, and I give him the wave, and he kind of had that look on his face, like, don't say it. I know, like, it was close. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to go over and talk to him about it because he's probably just sick of it. But that was a very close call, and I think that. I don't mean this in any sort of conspiratorial way. I just mean sort of almost like a tradition. You know, a lot of times to win the Arnold, you gotta be one of those kind of Arnold-looking guys. You know, I don't know. It's like Dennis Wolf has an Arnold. You know, I don't know. It's just the short, stocky, less structurally gifted guys don't tend to win the Arnold. And I'm not saying that they win other shows. I'm just saying, you know, my money's usually on the guy that has kind of the bigger X frame. And, you know, so I wasn't surprised. I mean, they're both fantastic. And I think the muscle quality on Bonek is actually better than on Brandon. Bonek has these really crazy, ridiculous bundles of stuff going into tendons, like in his pec area, in the armpit area, you know, and his biceps and stuff. where you see everything like twist and knot and like go down into the tendon.
Yeah,
you know that look.
He has a gnarlier look. There's no
Yeah,
question about that.
It's really, really fibery. I call it. I don't know what it is. Just it's crazy. But so he has that, but you know he doesn't open up the same like you call front double.
Yeah.
And you know how Dennis used to open up and just like holy fuck.
Yeah,
like, that guy got huge.
Yeah.
So like Brandon opens up, right? Because he's bigger framed, has wider shoulders, and Bonac doesn't really open up on that shot. So
that's that's interesting.
Yeah, and then the front lat spread's the same. Like Bonac's pecs really crunch in front of him, and he gets that really crazy thick kind of Franco Columbo look.
Yeah.
But Brandon, gets wide and big, and like his shoulders go up 6 inches, and he inflates like Dennis used to. And so I don't know. I think that's why he won. He gets bigger. He is bigger and he gets bigger.
Yeah. Now that you mention it and you say the Franco Columbo look, I almost feel like Bonac is taller than when he gets into comparisons. He begins looking taller than I would have thought he was. When I see him by himself, I feel like he's a shorter guy because he's so dense and thick and wide. Mm-hmm. And then I see him standing next to Brandon. I'm like, they're really not too far there's not too much of a discrepancy between their heights.
No, not. I know what you mean. It's like weird. It's like a structural thing more than a height thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. People's bodies are so different. I mean, the fact that I can recognize someone's physique from a silhouette of them moving their arms around.
Yeah.
Like just imagine a silhouette, like totally blacked out silhouette of someone just like, when you walk into the gym and you're just warming up with a dumbbell or like a 5-pound plate and you're just like doing shoulder circles.
Yeah.
Just think of how many pros you could pick out just from that.
Yeah.
You could probably do like 15 of the top 20 guys to get them right.
We could probably pick out everybody who was on the Arnold Classic stage,
Yeah, and it's just, there's so many different structural differences and how we move. And, when they hit a pose, how muscles, shift and everything, changes. And there's just, there's so many different varieties of things going on out there. Like, a guy like Akeem and a guy like Brandon have a million things in common. And then they have a million things that are not the same.
Yeah.
I mean, they're essentially the exact same, 99.99% same DNA. They both have ridiculous amounts of muscle in all the right places.
Right.
But, Akeem's got completely different look. And so it's just, I don't know. It's just those judges, man, like I know people hack on judges a lot and put so much pressure on them. But, I mean, I really think they've got a tough job at that level. They try to do the best they can with these unbelievable examples that are put in front of them.
Absolutely.
Some of it's easy. Some of it's easy. Like Josh isn't going to win. He's not hard enough.
Right.
But what's fair? Should he be fourth?
That's where it starts getting tricky. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Especially like you said, because they're so different.
Yeah. You want to get them all right,
Yeah.
So, yeah. Great show though.
Well, hey, I got a topic, and I thought that you would be, and this is actually something I had been thinking about since the last time you were on. Last time we talked, and even the time before that, you've always mentioned stories about your training partners, and there's a certain thing that I feel like you get out of having a good training partner that pushes you further than you might have been able to go on your own. Plus there's this cool camaraderie that you have with, someone else that has these similar goals as you. I thought to myself, this would be a really cool topic to explore with you, Ron.
Well, I've written actually several articles about this stuff, like blogs for different websites and shit about training partners. So, I am pretty opinionated on it actually. I mean, I've been training realized that I've been training for 29 years as of this year.
Wow. Yeah.
And I've really only had like a real training partner where it was like every day we showed up and trained together.
Yeah.
I really only had that for probably like, I don't know, 7 total years 7 or 8 total years that I've been training.
And you're not saying consistent, just cumulative.
Yeah. Just, like I had, I trained with my 2 Australian buddies for 2 years, pretty much 2 solid years. And then I had my best friend trained with me while I was getting ready for my first few nationals. So that was like 2 years maybe. And then I had, a training partner for another nationals one year, and then I had a natural guy that trained with me. He was one of my best partners, and he trained with me for 3 years. And that's pretty much it for like consistent partners for long periods of time. There's been some team ups here and there, trained with a couple guys for a few months at a time and stuff, but it's just, I don't know, it's such a personal thing for me. I'm so picky about so many things that like there's lots of times like, I can imagine a lot of the top pros saying, "Hey, do you want to train with me?" And I'd be like, "Well, actually, no, I like to do my own thing." But even as a younger guy, I was just so picky.
Huh.
And about like what time I would train and what exercises I like to do and how I wanted to train. Because, for years I trained the majority of my whole life, I've trained very kind of Dorian-ish.
Okay.
So, if somebody's kind of a pump type trainer, I just don't want to train with them. It's just, I have no interest in that type of workout, whatever. Nowadays, of course, I'm a lot more flexible. I'll train with anybody, have a lot of fun on the road training with different people at the expos and stuff.
Yeah. And that's not necessarily
different.
That's not even like necessarily a partnership, is it? When you're on the road,
exactly.
But it is fun though. It is cool to you used, I think, a good phrase was team up with somebody and maybe try on a little bit of what they do and they try on a little bit of what you do, but it's probably not your best workout, right?
No. And I've been a lot more open-minded the last, 10 years. The last 5 years I trained for competition, I was a lot more open-minded. And then now that I don't compete anymore, I'll train with anybody. I'll try something, here and there. But, the most of the time I was competing, I kind of had that, like, I have to make sure this is about me. And so part of it was, I just didn't want to anyone that had to train with me, I would let them know. I'm like, we kind of have to do pretty much everything my way. So if that's not going to be fun for you, it's totally cool. But I'm just super focused. I'm not going to do stuff just for the hell of it, and so that's kind of how it pretty much always was. And, it worked out really good for me, but that's one thing that I think people make the mistake is they're not honest and clear with people. You kind of start training with someone to become your training partner. You have to make sure you're on the same level in a lot of ways. And it doesn't mean you're on the same level of how good of a bodybuilder you are. I trained with my best friend never competed ever. He was just a normal dude that loved to train hard. And he was a fantastic training partner because it was totally about me. He was just happy to be there supporting me and enjoying the fact that he was getting stronger all the time and all that. But it was 100% about me. What time are we training? What exercise are we doing? He was an amazing spotter. I had this perfectly trained spotting machine. He knew every little thing I was going to do. Mid-set, he would know, oh, Ron just changed his mind. He's going to do a drop set on this. I can tell. He is that intuitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you start communicating with grunts and head nods and little hand gestures. And you start communicating with someone on that level. And it becomes almost like a pit crew. You watch a pit crew do a car and it's a finely tuned machine that happens in milliseconds, and that's how, I would get to with a training partner like him. He'd be spotting me on squats and he just knew that I was doing another forced rep. And then he just knew that was the last one. And then he would just know everything that was going on.
Yeah. That
so,
makes total sense.
If you can find someone like that, that's when your training kind of goes to a level that's, maybe impossible to get to on your own. Because, you do the best you can on your own, so you can't do forced reps. So you can do drop sets and you can do partials and you can do this and that and you can do all these other intensifiers. But when you're squatting and you got somebody to actually spot you and they're, got their hands on your chest and they're helping you crank out those 2 extra reps and they're screaming in your ear, I think that's something that is, very difficult to replace training completely alone.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's just, there's a certain place you can go to with a really good partner.
I've always felt like the comparison that I've made is, I don't know if you've ever done any hiking, but I feel like if I've gone hiking by myself, I get tired faster. I lose my pace a little bit easier. If you have somebody else that you're keeping up with and they're keeping up with you, before you know it, it's like fun and you're talking and you're having a good time and you're pushing each other through the hike versus, just having yourself to push yourself. It's nice when you have somebody that I think is on that same level where I think that the power of two people, if you're on that same place, is going to be stronger than the power of just one. Let me take you back for a minute here. I think back to some of my early training stuff when I was first learning, and trying to figure bodybuilding out. Did you ever have a training partner that was like the guy who taught you stuff?
Well, yeah, actually, it's funny you mentioned this. This is a good one. I got a few stories. So I started in like late grade 9. I started working out, right? So there's a couple of just kids from my class that had already been going to the gym.
Okay.
And they said, and I noticed the one guy's arms were getting bigger. He's one of those young kids that was kind of like, his hormones were cranking before everyone else's,
Yeah, yeah.
And so he was like getting biceps, and it was in like grade 9.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, I could get biceps too. So anyways, I went with him and he showed me around the gym. And right away I was like, this is it. So I trained with those guys for the first, probably a year of, probably grade 10, we trained together.
This is
but
it.
Then
you knew at that point, you're like, I'm in love with this. This is what I'm going to start doing forever.
Awesome. But yeah, but it was funny. But I noticed those two guys would always they'd skip leg day a lot.
Okay.
And right away I knew that even though I was a kid, I was just in grade 10. I was like, fuck, there's something different about me because I don't skip.
Huh.
Interesting. And I would always go on leg day. Leg day would come around and I'd be the only one that would walk there after school. And so I teamed up with this other guy at the gym who was my age, and he was also like really into it. We were reading muscle mags, and we became like after school training partners for the most part for most of high school, I guess. And we would save all the magazines for the month, and then we'd look through them all and we'd find the routines out of them.
Oh my gosh!
I remember pulling Lee Haney's Olympia routine out of Muscle and Fitness, and we pinned it to the fridge, and it was just like this crazy huge volume,
right.
6 day a week, like the Arnold program almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we're at the gym every single day doing 30 sets of body part.
Oh God.
And that was pretty cool, just that level of enthusiasm. And then we started writing our own programs. So we'd write down, our 10 favorite exercises for every body part. And then we design all these workouts trying to use all of those exercises over the course of a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And we got really obsessed with it. And we'd do a week of all 12 reps and then a week of all 6. And then, we're doing all this, this periodization without realizing that we were just trying to mix it up and have, because we read the magazine said you had to do everything,
Right.
So that's what we were doing. So yeah, that was my first real partner, I guess. And then it was pretty much in grade 12 when I met a guy named Eric. So I guess I was 17. And one day this guy showed up at the gym, and I remember he pulled up in a little Firefly.
I don't even remember what those are.
This tiny little Pontiac Fireflies.
Okay.
And he pulled up in one of those, and it was snowing out, like crazy Canadian blizzard, right?
Yeah.
And I remember these two huge guys got out of this little Firefly. They had big military kind of jackets on, like army jackets, and work boots and shit.
Yeah.
And they had big baggy Gators pants and all that. And they came into the gym and they didn't talk to anybody. And the one guy was just an out-of-town visitor, so he didn't really live there. But Eric lived there, and so I saw those guys at the gym one day, and they went over to the rack and they started squatting, and they went all the way up to 5 plates.
Whew, nice.
And I remember this is back in would have been 92, and guys in 1992 there was no fucking people squatting 5 plates at most gyms, right?
Yeah.
And
not like Instagram now, where every single person can squat 5 plates somehow.
Yeah, and every kid's on so much trend that it's easy to squat 5 plates.
Right.
So I just remember being like, holy fuck, those guys are actually big. And over the course of the next several weeks, I saw that Eric guy at the gym every day, and he started talking to me because he saw I was training really hard, And so one day he asked me to squat. He goes, hey kid, let's squat, and then we'll go to Pizza Hut.
Nice.
So that's a story I tell a lot. But yeah, that's I had like a leg day partner for a while, and my first real leg day partner where it was just me every leg day I'd train with him. And it's I don't know, it's like going to battle, it's like playing on a football team with somebody, you kind of get that camaraderie and all the stuff that goes with it. You got a friend now, you got someone you can relate to and trust, and someone to go eat with. And so, yeah, it's good times. So, I've had a lot of great training partners, but, there's something about training by myself that's still, sort of, it's like my time away from everything. Yeah. So I think, at this point in my life, no longer competing and stuff, I really like training by myself. It's like, I don't know, it's hard to shut everything off, and that's a good way to do it.
I can completely relate. It's funny that I wanted to talk about training partners, but that's exactly what I've been into too, is I just put my headphones on and I don't make eye contact with anybody. And I'm not trying to be like hardcore in the gym. I just want to just kind of do my own thing for a while and spend an hour not talking to people,
Yeah, man, without having to look at your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but fire away.
What I was going to ask, last time, we started talking about this stuff, I remember that you talked about when you had gone to Australia, and I want to say you hooked up with somebody there that was pretty influential. Yeah.
So, I met this guy named, John Davey as soon as I got to the Gold Coast, and he was kind of like, the future pro that was going to come out of there. He'd won some shows and just hadn't turned pro yet. And everyone was saying, oh yeah, he'll turn pro. It's just a matter of, his next show or whatever. And I met this other guy named Nick Jones, and he was a NABA competitor. So he did the NABA shows. He went to like he won the Australasias a bunch of times. And he was, he would later go on to do like the Worlds and the Universe, like the NABA Universe. And, he wound up winning his class at the Worlds and the Universe and stuff like that. But, so I met those guys right away, and I started training with John. And then Nick would join us occasionally whenever his schedule would suit. So it was usually just me and John, and then Nick would hop in here and there. And then for the second year I was there, it was all three of us. We would all train together because Nick was getting ready for the Universe and John was getting ready for the Nationals to try and get his pro card. And I was just like the guy that was just training with him. I didn't have a show or anything.
Okay.
And so we just fucking smashed it out. We trained together for the whole year, and it was very Dorian style. Like we would work up to one all out set, and then sometimes we'd do a back off set.
Okay.
And, but it was low volume. It was really heavy. It was, come on, motherfucker. It was like really hardcore. And we trained like that, the whole year. And, Nick won his class at the Worlds and John won the Nationals. So the proof is in the pudding, right? And then I went home from, did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Oh, you're still there.
I'm just sitting here like with a smile on my face, mouth like hanging open, and just listening with wide eyes.
There was like a ping in my ear. I thought I lost you.
No.
So like they went on to win shows. Nick went to Europe, won his class. John won Nationals, and then I went home. And I guess a year later, I won the overall at the Albertas, and that kind of gave me a lifetime bite of Nationals. So yeah, the proof is in the pudding. Like that type of training had all three of us win shows within, basically a 2-year period of time from each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was just, balls out, forced reps, heavy weights, extra negatives on stuff. It was a blood and guts video, just played and just repeat, and that's how we did it back then. And, you did 30 minutes of fasted cardio in the morning, and then you ate your steak and veggies and your chicken and rice and your egg whites and oatmeal. And you took your basic simple stack, and no one could afford GH anyway, so you didn't even bother. And you just did the show with the fucking basics. And, it's funny because, we were all in super, super good condition, and it worked, and I just see so many people just fucking with the formula now.
Yeah.
So don't know what to say.
Yeah. You something you said was that you started out with really high volume back with the Lee Haney workouts. And at this point now, you've graduated to these really high intensity, one set exercises, possibly with a back off set after that.
Yeah.
That it's something I've been trying to learn how to explain. Can you talk about how you graduated to that? What was the evolution? Because it's, you don't just wake up one day, I think, and go, okay, yeah, this makes sense. I'm just going to do one set. There's a progression.
Right.
How did that progression work for you?
Well, so it's part of it's my personality. So I remember the whole time I was working out in high school, I remember it'd say 5 sets of 10 on something, right?
Yeah.
And I remember just having a hard time with the fact that there was no description as to what that 10 reps would look like on each of those 5 sets.
Okay.
I don't know. I guess I'm a real structural person in some ways.
Yeah.
So, someone would say, oh, yeah, I did 5 sets of 10. And I'd be like, it would beg the question, what does that mean?
Huh.
What do you mean by 5 sets of 10? And whenever I'd read a pro's program, it would say 4 sets of 8. And I'd be like, but what does that mean? And it was always a problem. And then when I first read about Dorian, when he did the 91 Night of Champions and he sort of suddenly appeared in the magazines, he immediately, in the very first article, was speaking about how his training was different.
Okay.
And I remember he addressed that directly. He actually said in the article, a lot of guys say they do 4 sets of an exercise, but they really only do 1 or 2 anyways.
Yeah.
And I just cut to the chase and just make sure I'm warmed up, and then I just do that 1 set.
Okay, so you did just directly graduate to it.
Yeah, so I just was and it just spoke to me because he clarified the question that I'd been sort of unknowingly wondering. I didn't understand what I was unable to figure out, but he clarified it for me. It made sense. And I remember a lot of times I would train with people when we do volume, and I would go super hard on all the sets.
Yeah.
And I remember wondering why other people didn't do that and all this sort of stuff. It just didn't make sense to me. So then that made sense to me. And then I started reading the Mike Mentzer quotes, Mike Mentzer had this quote, if you could take a hammer and hit a nail, and if you hit it with everything you got, you hit it perfectly, the nail will go all the way into the wood.
Yeah.
If you hit it again, now you're just going to damage the wood. You already got the job done. The job's done. You don't need to hit it again.
I like that analogy.
Whereas you could tap it all day and you could do 50 taps to get it into the wood. You can do that if you want, but it's just a different way of getting the nail into the wood. And I remember just reading that analogy and it rattled around in my head. And I just immediately switched over to Dorian style training. Yeah. I just was oh, here's a program printed right here. And it was a 3-day split. So it must have been a really old program at Dorian's. It was chest and arms on one day, and the next day was legs, and the next day was off, and then the 4th day was shoulders and arms, and then the 5th day was off. So it was a 5-day split with 3 training days.
Okay.
And I remember that was the first Dorian program I did.
Where was back in that?
It was back and shoulders. Sorry,
back and
chest and arms, and back and shoulders on the 3rd training day.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I figured.
Yeah, back and shoulders. So I remember I just started doing that program, and I think it was at that point in time he was still doing 2 working sets per exercise, because I know he used to do that right in the early days. And so I just started doing this program, and my workouts were only an hour long, even though it was chest, bis, and tris.
Yeah.
Or quads, hams, and calves all in the same day. It would only take me about an hour. And I remember immediately I started getting really strong on everything.
Okay.
I remember my strength just started going up and up and up and up. And everyone at the gym was oh, you're getting way stronger. And so immediately I thought that just automatically, would just translate to just infinite amount of endless muscle. So I was pretty excited. I thought I found the secret and everybody else was a fucking idiot. So I had this idea though, I actually thought everyone else was super stupid for training the way they were training. I was like, man, if you just train like me, fuck everyone in the gym seeing all these gains I'm making. Why can't they figure it out? Just watch what I'm doing. I'm training harder than everybody and I'm doing way less sets than everybody. And I just thought it was that simple. I thought it would just never end,
Yeah.
But, you start to run into you don't grow like a teenager for the rest of your life. So I was also at that peak hormone time. I mean, I would have been 17 in grade 12. So, I mean, of course you're going to grow. Like, I was putting weight on like crazy and getting stronger all the time. And, it was really, really good gains back then.
Yeah. I'm trying to sort this out in my head right now, because I went into this thinking about the benefits to training partners. And with that in mind, I've thought about like the great workouts that I have had with a really good training partner. But in the reality, I feel like I'm in the same place as you, where a lot of my training has been by myself, and I'm equally as happy to train by myself too. So now I'm kind of confused as to where we want to go with this, as to what. Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe it's like that old rule with a marriage. You can't be happy with someone until you're happy with yourself.
Maybe that's it. Yeah.
And maybe there's a little bit of wisdom in that too. Like if you really, really love to train and you're willing to, go to hell and back, so to speak, by yourself, then it's only at that point in time are you worth anything to somebody serious as a training partner. And I would never want to waste anybody's time, especially if they're trying to accomplish something great. Like I trained with people that didn't ever compete, like I said, but they never, I knew they were on board. I knew that they weren't there to talk. Like my best friend, Scott, I mean, when he was training with me, he was a 180-pound guy. He's a normal dude, he's he didn't take any gear or anything like that. He was just a normal dude. And, he'd squat to absolute failure plus 4 reps, but a lot of people would think, oh, I'm just here to help Ron.
Yeah.
But no, he was there to help me by going as hard as me and letting me know that there was no, I had no room to back off, because this natural guy was going to out-train me if I did.
Yeah.
And it was really good times.
That reminds me of something when you say that I think there's kind of a couple dynamics that I've experienced training. Either I'm trying to keep up with somebody who's better than me, or I'm training with somebody that I need to prove to them that I know how to lead a workout. There's those two positions.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've had moments in time when I will go to train with someone, and maybe we'll get into the workout and I'll think, you know what? I'm not giving this person everything I got.
Yeah.
Like I'm going hard on my set, but I'm not dialed in on the fact that I'm also involved in their workout. And I'll try to correct that. It's, sometimes you start doing something before you've really had time to sit and think about it.
Yeah.
Like for example, I always have the best workouts when I actually take 5 minutes to ride the bike.
Okay. You're kind of meditating.
Yeah, it's not like riding the bike is the point. It's that I'm not doing anything else. I'm just sitting on the bike. I'm just thinking. I got my music already playing, so now that's already starting to trigger things because my brain is very musically oriented. My certain music I put on just turns me into a training machine, right?
What do you like? Give me an example.
Well, I listen to the same music I listened to when I was competing my whole life. I listened to, Tool, AC/DC, Chevelle, Metallica. I put on just all that old. I'll put on Nirvana Live, listen to that stuff. I'll put on I like rough, raw, loud concert DVDs and music, so I listen to a lot of that stuff.
Nice.
So yeah, just that sort of shit. And I like loud guitars, and I like that. So I'll put that on, and that starts to get my brain going. But there's those times when you walk into the gym and you're kind of in a hurry to start.
Yeah.
And if I'm training with someone under those conditions, sometimes I forget that I'm, also in their workout. So I'll try to correct that as soon as possible and get right into their workout with them. But yeah, that's one thing people don't think of. It's if you're going to train with me, I expect you to be paying attention, and I promise to do the same. So there's times when I've had people I've trained with. It was the workouts were good and stuff, but they would wander off and talk to somebody for a while or whatever. And I wouldn't make a conscious decision to stop training with them. It would just sort of happen.
Yeah.
I would just lose interest in training with them because I'd be like, fuck, they're out there talking to somebody, what's the point? And I don't know. It's it kind of ruined the mood,
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the camaraderie too. Now I'm going to take you back for a minute. You mentioned, let's see, you came back from Australia and you said you went back, and that's when you won in Alberta.
Yeah. When I
Okay.
came home, and that's when I like started really competing seriously, and and I won that show, and that was a '99 Albertas I won.
Okay. Now, was there a gym there that you worked at? Was it called Hardcore?
Yeah. So there was a.
How do
Hardcore.
I know this, Ron?
I don't know. You know too much.
I have an inside source that saw
yeah.
you firsthand. Now, did you work there too?
No. I just I eventually trained clients out of there because I was there for 13 years.
Okay.
But yeah, that was just like a year or two after that. I started training at Hardcore Gym in Edmonton, and it's now a powerhouse gym. But yeah, I trained there for 13 years, so there was a lot of nonsense went on in that room.
My firsthand account was of you by the smoothie bar, holding court with like a bunch of bros that are eating their post-workout meals, and just hanging on every word of your stories. Does that sound familiar?
That is possible. That definitely would have happened there. That definitely would have happened there for sure. Because I don't know. That place was home to me for a long time, and I pretty much knew everybody that was in there. And a lot of people came to me for advices.
Yeah.
So we'll say that.
I like that. We're gonna pull that out. We're gonna pull that out and put that somewhere. I don't know.
Did someone send that in to you?
No, Victoria Falkar. She said.
Oh yeah.
She said she knew you back then, huh?
Yeah, that's funny. I've known her for a long time, so
yeah,
that's funny. Yeah, there's a lot of people that could have had that same story. So.
I bet that was probably an everyday thing. Anybody who came in that gym at that time could have probably had that story.
Yeah, I was just lucky. Like, I started going to the Olympia in 2002.
Okay.
And, that was just less common. Like, now it's like, so many people go. But back then it was like, people would be like, oh my God, you went to the Olympia,
Yeah.
And, you come back with all these stories, right? So there's that stuff too. And, I knew a lot of the pros. I was kind of lucky. Like, I remember the 2002 Olympia, I went and had lunch with Tom Prince, so with Tom Prince having lunch, and, like people walking by, and, he's introducing me to fucking Bob. Like, I get to meet Bob, and like we're chatting, it's just funny. Like, I knew a lot of those guys so long ago.
That's so cool, man. I guess, the reason I really wanted to bring you on to talk about this is because it's something about the fellowship of the training partners. And sometimes it's not even the guys you train with. Sometimes it's, sitting around and eating your food afterward. There's a camaraderie of people that are doing, that are training as hard as they can and putting their really like your heart and soul into your workouts. There's like this unset bond almost that I feel like that we can have. And I feel like that's kind of what you are cultivating at West Coast Iron too. That's just the vibe I get, man, that you're building that there.
Well, that's just been an awesome project. I mean, I never thought opening a gym would be so much work. I can't imagine having done it myself. Because I got 4 partners. Like, there's 5 of us that opened that gym.
Wow.
And with 5 of us, it was like, an enormous amount of work. We all have full-time jobs and other stuff going on in businesses and stuff to run. And, 2 of the guys have kids and wives and, that sort of shit. So, there's so much else going on, but we managed to make that gym happen. And it's been fantastic. But yeah, it's the training environment there is really good. And I mean, obviously, I'd like to think I contributed to it hugely. I think that's just natural. If you're going to open a gym, you really hope that you can have a little bit of yourself in it.
Yeah.
So and every time I'm in there training, I mean, there's been some days when I think, everyone has those days, even when you're at your most motivated and you're heavily competing on all that, you still have those days when you really got to drag one out,
Yeah.
But, sometimes I'll have those days where I'm super tired from work or so much I'm going on the go. And, I look around the room and I'm like, I have to train hard because, I can't not, if I'm not going to train hard, I'll just stop my workout because, I don't want anyone in here to see me fucking, pussying out because, my name's on the fucking place, like there's a little bit of nonsense pride goes into every workout at that gym because I know that, there might be a young guy watching me do a set and I think, fuck, this guy's got I don't want to let this guy down, or there might be someone that has asked me for advice that's spotting me, because I know everyone hops in and spots me and stuff. It's pretty cool.
That is cool.
So, I just like, fuck, I got to give her, I'd rather not train than go in there and, be an 8, 9, 10er.
Yeah.
Which is my little nickname for people that just do 8, 9, 10 and then rack the bar.
I like that. That's real good.
Don't be an 8, 9, 10er, and I don't want anyone to see me ever being an 8, 9, 10er, it's just never been my thing. It's not what I preach. And, so I just, I try to, I guess, it sounds silly to say it, but you feel like you're maybe helping to set an example when you go out on the floor and put your headphones on and get going.
Man, I feel like that's something we should all be taking home right now, especially those of us who have been doing this for a while. And I feel like that relates to when I was talking about, having training partners that are looking up to you, that you want to be able to give it your all. There's been this term, I feel like everybody started using this, that you don't just go in the gym to do face pulls, It's face pulls, for some reason, they've gotten a bad name, I think. Everybody who says just doing face pulls, it's like the equivalent of just doing biceps nowadays. But
right.
You're not just going in there to do face pulls. You really want to, I don't know, man, I really want to put in everything I have into every workout. There's something special about it. Tom Platt said that we are, what was it? It was like that we are artists and we express ourselves through our sets and our reps. And I want to try to stay plugged into that. I feel like training partners for me, they help me with that, because if it is somebody that's looking up to me, I want to make sure that I am putting that into it. And if it's somebody that I look up to, I want to make sure I'm proving it to them that I can hang,
Yeah, no, totally. And some people might think that that's, silly or whatever, but it's, you're trying to contribute to the culture that I'm trying to contribute to, the culture that gave me everything I have in my life. Anyways, like my life without bodybuilding, I don't even have a fucking idea what that, it would be completely different. Like there's nothing about me that would be the same. I wouldn't even I might even be the same person politically. Who knows? Like my life without bodybuilding would change every single aspect of me. So, you want to kind of give back to it in a positive way. And, the gym has been a real big part of me sort of realizing like, oh, here's an avenue where I can really do a lot. We try to do it on our Instagram, and we try to contribute, when we make a comment on something, we try to contribute when we do our thing, in the industry with our companies and the different things we work for. You're doing the podcast, a huge contribution, giving people a voice. And, so everyone's always looking for a way that they can, even if you don't know it, you're looking for a way that you can contribute. And when we opened the gym, it was just something I was super drawn to. And it wasn't until it was already open and it was already operating where I realized, I was like, oh shit, like I can affect a lot of people with this, actually affect them, like real change,
Yeah.
And it's been cool because like there's been guys that have like moved already. I joked that I wanted people to move to train at that gym. And
you said that
now.
It's happening.
Yeah,
okay. You said that like when we first started, when you first had opened it, we recorded. Wow. That's happened, man.
Yeah. Like this guy's like, oh man, I want to do my contest prep. And I thought, fuck, I'm doing contract work right now and I'm using my laptop. So it doesn't matter where I live. So I'm just going to fucking move out here for a few months.
That is badass, man.
And, he's, if he got a place close to the gym and he's doing his prep at the gym because he doesn't like, he wants to. And so I was like, fuck this, cool, people doing that sort of stuff. So it's, you just try to make an environment, like maybe there'll be a really great pro bodybuilder come out of there now, and that's just a cumulative effect of that'll happen over decades is, I really hope to see stuff like that,
Okay.
So,
well, listen, I wasn't sure what we were going to get out of this. This was kind of an experiment using this as a topic, but I feel like I got to it. We got to it. And that is that this is even down to your sets and your reps. How you train is a contribution to bodybuilding if you're being mindful of it. I like that a lot, man. Yeah,
that's a good message to kind of round up with is, that your workout might affect someone else in a positive way.
Yeah.
And, every time I walk into a gym, I take it real personal. Like, I don't know if that's, like I said, maybe I have some crazy ego issues I have to deal with. Maybe that's a few $1,000s worth of therapy to figure that out. But I do, like, every time I walk into a gym, I think, there's, I don't want to say something to prove, because that's sort of the sort of young, aggressive football player type of mindset, which isn't what I have at this point.
Right.
But, there's just something I want to leave behind, I guess, So yeah, it does matter. And it does sort of kind of occur to me in a way,
Yeah. Well, and hopefully everybody listening to this, it's going to occur to them a little bit more now too. I feel like, if anything, I want to be more aware of what I'm doing in my life. There's nothing worse than the feeling of walking out of the gym and I realize that, I didn't really give my all in that. At the same token, there's nothing more amazing than feeling like I just left it all on the floor,
Yeah, for sure. Like I saw there's a kid that trains at my gym. I would have met him when he was about 16, and now I think he's like 20. And I saw him the other day doing a drop set on the pendulum squat.
Yeah.
He had a buddy giving him forced reps and pulling plates off. And when he was doing his negatives, he was going down, like, when you get into the really hard part of the set.
Yeah.
And there's this point in the set where the reps start to get hard.
Okay.
And when that happens, I see immature people, they start rushing the reps.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But mature people who really are there to train, they actually start slowing them down and making them more painful.
You embrace it.
You're like, okay, here, I'm at the hard part now. Let's see how fucking bad I can make this negative hurt.
This is where it really starts.
Yeah, and they take it down almost a little slower and almost sit into the hole and then drive up, and it's an even harder rep. And and I saw him doing that.
Yeah.
And I thought, fuck, this kid's come a long ways, and it's because he trains in this room. Like, he used to train at the old gym that was in there. And now it's, West Coast now for a year and a half, and he's been there the whole time. And so he's training like that now. And I like to think that it's because of where he trains.
Yeah.
He sees that happening. He's plugged into it. It's or at least partially because of where he trains, like that's the type of stuff that kind of infects other people. And you start getting more guys training like that. They start getting more results, and that it's just how it works.
Yeah, that's something else, man. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking the time to talk about this with me, because like I said, I knew if we started this conversation up that it was gonna go somewhere, and it ended exactly where I would want it to end, man. So I appreciate your time, man. This is cool.
It went pleasantly sideways.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, man. I appreciate it, Scott. Anytime. And look forward to chatting with you on your Advices radios.
Well, listen,
in the future.
And plug everything for me, Mutant and the gym and everything else.
Yeah, so I'm still at Mutant. Everything's going really good. Obviously, we just did the Arnold. I got lots of filming and more trips coming up this year. Hit me up on Instagram, Rep300. And of course, I never really push it because I sort of get lots of business on its own, but I do work with people, and I am taking clients.
Nice.
And I've got guys getting ready for all sorts of pro qualifier shows and, entry level shows. And I had a friend of mine that I always helped. He was going to do a pro show this year, but unfortunately he tore his bicep about halfway into prep. So he had that fixed. It's a great fix, so it's going to look fine.
Nice.
So he's going to be okay, but that, kind of annexed the plan for the pro shows. So I've got guys getting ready for shows all over the place, and a few key ladies as well.
Nice.
I'm pretty picky about who I work with, and I see a lot of girls competing that maybe shouldn't be because of their current metabolic situation or whatever. But I like to help people where if I feel I can help you, I will take you. So it's not a personal thing. It doesn't matter how good you are.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what show you're getting ready for. I don't give a shit if you got great genetics. It's about, kind of how we sort of click when we talk and what your goals are. And so yeah, you can always hit me up. And, everything's going great. West Coast Iron, follow my gym, check it out. I'm just happy to be on the show.
Hell yeah. Do you remember the guy's name offhand who moved to be by your gym?
Yeah, Nick.
Nick. Let's give a shout out to Nick.
Shout out to Nick.
For being a badass, Nick.
Being a badass. Yeah, you bet, man.
All right, guys. For another episode of Advices Radio with Big Ron Partlow, I'm Scott McNally. We will see you soon. Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.